Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got another One Piece arc to go through, specifically the Skypiea second part of this arc review. Now, as you can see, I am in another new location, and if you have been following this channel long enough, you would have seen that I've changed locations that I filmed probably 10 times, because the hardest part of this YouTube thing for me is finding somewhere to film. And I was actually heading to the stairwell of the apartment building that I live in order to film this video inside of the stairwell when I came across this like random storage room thing, and it was very like room of requirement if you're into Harry Potter, but it is really creepy inside of here. And I am really positive that I am not meant to be in here. So I'm going to try and make this review nice and quick. Like I've been doing some like big 40-minute reviews, but I'm going to try and cut this one down because it is hella creepy in here. And I don't know what you guys can see on the camera, but in person, this place is like real creepy. All right, firstly, I want to say thank you to everybody that clarified the question I had in the last review where I said, is this a filler arc? And so many people told me, a couple of things. Firstly, that Skypiea Arc is awesome and it is great. There's a lot of really interesting information that comes up that is prevalent later on. Secondly, and this is something I actually didn't know, apparently filler content is only in the TV shows, and it's to stop TV shows from catching up to the manga that's still going. I didn't know that. That's really cool to know. Thank you very much. And thirdly, everyone has been, or a lot of people have been telling me that I should stop at this point and watch the next scene of the cartoon, of the anime, of the TV show, because apparently the next part of the TV show is filler, but it's meant to be like really great filler. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. A lot of people have told me which episodes to watch, and like that is the filler content, but that is the content I should watch. I will probably watch it, and I will probably do a review on it, so that'll probably be next week's video, is the review of that filler content. But yeah, basically, thank you to everyone for giving me all of that information. Next, I just want to bring up the Totally Not Mark thing because, I'd already filmed my video and released it last week before I found out all of this information about Totally Not Mark and the whole Toei thing. But in the week that's gone, the whole thing has just gone like up and then back down, and it seems to have like resolved itself in that Totally Not Mark has taken down his two videos, because I watched his two videos because I really wanted to get an idea of what was going on. Plus I watched Daniel Green's video on it. And I'd never really watched Totally Not Mark because I don't really watch anyone else's One Piece content because I don't want to get spoiled. Right, I'll watch a lot of One Piece content once I'm fully caught up and I can appreciate everything that everyone's saying without fear of being spoiled. But what I heard was that Totally Not Mark, a lot of people weren't supporting him in his fight against Toei because apparently he would just put up big long clips of like the One Piece TV show and then talk over it. So we got a lot of backlash for it, or like that is what I gathered from his latest video where he said that he was letting it all go. He didn't need all that negativity in his life. So that was really interesting how like that 1 week kind of played out where it was just like this big thing and then it just like kind of subsided and then stopped. So moving forward from there, I'm still going to be doing my One Piece reviews because, I love it. I'm not going to stop, whatever. But in saying that, generally in these One Piece reviews, I do like to put up the panels and like talk about them. I won't be doing that so frequently. I'll probably only do like 1 or 2 in a video if I think it's really prevalent. And in saying that, I'll probably only have it up for like 5 seconds and you can pause the video and look at the panel if you want. Next, I want to say thank you to everybody that, you guys have told me more than once that I shouldn't put part 1 and part 2 into my titles or thumbnails on the video. Just thank you for that. I will probably just put the number 1 and the number 2 in my videos from now on. I do always appreciate your advice that you guys are giving me because I am very new to this. So I do appreciate any advice and knowledge that you can pass on to me. All right, with all that being said, let's get on to this. Let's just jump straight to the end of this arc. Okay, so when I read the first part of this and I was like, is this kind of filler arc? I don't really see how this, pertains to the story, how it kind of like throws out those plot threads or whatever that we see so often in the earlier arcs. Turns out I was wrong. Turns out I jumped the gun. I did my first review way too early, especially like by the end of this when Robin goes across those poneglyphs, or however you're meant to say it. I'm going to call them hieroglyphs. No, you know what? I'm going to call them ponglyphs. When Robin discovers all of them, she discovers them first inside of that city, and then she discovers them again on the bell towards the end of the arc, and she gets that information of there's another super weapon. It was named after Poseidon, so we know that there was at least 2 super weapons. And if I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet that there's going to be 12 super weapons named after all of the Greek/Roman gods. Just a theory I have. With the ultimate super weapon being called the Zeus, that just kind of makes sense to me. But then we get the ponglyph where it tells us that Gold Roger was there. It says something along the lines of, we came here, we found the text, and then we followed its guidance. And it just opened up so much speculation. And it gave us that more world building / character building where it says hey, Gold Roger could read the ponglyphs. He could read that ancient language. So what was he really doing in the Grand Line? And what's a really funny thing? In my videos, I've been getting comments, or I've been getting questions, and people have been asking me, what do you think One Piece is? And at the time, I never really understood that question. It was people would be like, what do you think One Piece is? Do you have any theories on what One Piece is? And I was like, yeah, they tell us at the beginning, it's everything Gold Roger had. It was his fortune. It was, my fortune is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. I left everything I own in one piece. So for me, that was really weird that I would get that question a lot of what are your theories about what is One Piece? And now I finally understand it. Okay, I get the question, because as soon as I read this part and we get that information from Robin where she says there's, all these other ponglyphs, some give you information, some tell you where others are. And if we put them all together, we will get the unwritten history, that 100 years or whatever, the unwritten history of the world. And I'm guessing that is what One Piece is. I'm guessing that Gold Roger had he had a transcendent moment or something where he was wow, earthly possessions mean nothing to me. I am the pirate king. I don't need any of this money. The thing that is most valuable, everything to me, is this information. This piece of information, I'm going to leave it here at the end of the world, which is probably where the last ponglyph is, and we find out that information. And I'm just going to throw this theory out there. I have a very strong feeling that there's more to Gold Roger's execution than we've been led, because I loved Nolan Blanc. I loved Nolan Blanc's story. When we got that flashback, it was kind of towards the end of this saga or arc or whatever you want to call it. I guess both. When we kind of got towards the end, we got the flashback to Nolan Blanc's story and how he was this adventurer / herbalist / doctor. And they were out in a storm and they heard the bell ringing. And so they went there and, everything ensues on the island. I loved that entire thing. I loved how, they weren't trusted, and then they earned the trust, and then they healed all the people. And then, that trust was broken again because they cut down, the sacred forest. And then, it was all a big misunderstanding. And then there was that, promise, hey, we're going to ring this bell until you come back. And then they come back 5 years later, and the other half of the island's been blown into the sky, including all of the people and the Golden City. Right, I loved that entire Nolan Blanc thing, and I felt so much empathy for the man when he, his ups and downs, and when he went back and he told the king about it, and then the king was like, all right, you're going to take us back. And we already knew from the last arc that he was going to get executed. We already knew that he was going to go back, there would be no Golden City, and he was going to die. And it was so sad to read it, and but I loved it. I loved the whole thing. And even right to the end when he's getting executed and they bring a random guy and they say this man was part of his crew. Did you see any of these things that Nolan Blanc is telling you that he saw? And the man's no, I didn't see any of it. But then you see his crew rock up and he's we don't know that guy. Nolan's telling the truth. That entire flashback, that entire sequence, technically we already knew the story, but just to watch it play out, and it only took 1 or 2 chapters or however long it took, it was such a well-told story in a flashback, which is something that people hate and is incredibly difficult to do, but it was just done so well and done in such an engaging way. and in such a way that really added to the story, even though, like, technically we already knew the story, like, we already knew that he was going to die. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at here is it felt like there was a lot of symbolism there. It felt like I want to make a very clear and stated prediction, even just in some of the imagery that happened, like during Nolan's execution, when he's there and the two like long swords are against his like neck. It's very reminiscent of the way that Gold Roger was executed. But I get that that could just be like a stylistic choice of the author. But I am going to go out on a limb here and say that Gold Roger was executed because he brought some kind of information, or he brought some kind of story that he'd collected from the poneglyphs, and the world government decided that he was too dangerous knowing this information, or they were unhappy with the information and didn't want it to get out, and so they killed him. As of now, that is my official prediction. Because as far as I'm aware, at no point has it really explained why Gold Roger was killed, or how he was captured. But it feels like the kind of same thing with Nolan Blanc, where like he kind of just like happily went to the gallows. He wouldn't, take back the story. He wouldn't take back the things that he said, and he was willing to die for the truth, I guess you could say. I don't know. Honor's a really strange thing in this story, but like there's just like such a heightened sense of honor in these stories. And I feel as if maybe that could have also been what happened with Gold Roger. I feel as if there's some kind of like 1-to-1 ratio. There's some kind of like symbolism going on here. And I would not be surprised at all if this early on in the story, Oda was like, "Ooh, hey, I'm going to give him a sneaky nod to how the actual story ends. Like, you know what? Gold Roger, he was actually trying to save the world. I mean, he was the Pirate King. How was he going to get caught? He must have willingly went to the gallows for the honor of the truth." I don't know. I hope that made sense to you. It made sense to me in my kind of rambling mind. But that is official prediction. I'm like penning it in. If I could carve it into stone, I would. While we are talking about predictions, I would like to say that I did get one right in my last video. I predicted that somehow the two maps, Jaya Island and Sky Island, I predicted that if you join them together in some way, shape, or form, they would have like some kind of like symbolism, or they would like fit together in some crazy way. What I did not expect, though, was this, and I'm just going to flash this up for like 3 seconds. I did not expect it to be like a skull. I did not expect the Skull Island. I did not expect that in any way, shape, or form, and I'd seen both maps. So when we got that reveal, I was like, okay, yes, very clever, very well done. And next, while I'm flashing up panels, I just want to flash up this one too, just for 3 seconds. Pause it and you can read it. But basically in this panel, I said in my last video, I said like, I noticed that Usopp has become a lot more brave. And I definitely noticed that in this arc, like the entire arc. I said it in the beginning of the last one, but I've definitely noticed it across this entire arc that Usopp has definitely become a lot more brave. And I said that Chopper filled his shoes of like the coward. But it feels like in this one, like specifically that panel that I flashed up before, it shows that Chopper has like he's filled Usopp's arc, but it feels like he's doing Usopp's entire arc just in this one story, because in that one panel that I flashed up, it said something along the lines of, when Chopper was fighting this guy and he wanted to run away, he said, like, I will not run away. I'm always running away. I'm, a coward, and that's why everyone has to protect me, but not anymore. I'm going to stay and fight him, and my life as a pirate is going to begin now. And if you substituted the word my life as a pirate with my life as a brave seas warrior begins now, that could very classically be an Usopp line that was written into it. And so it's just really interesting that Chopper did fill that position of Usopp the coward, but his entire arc has like shown that, he's facing that fear. And it could very easily be said that, you know, like I said in the last one, he had been spending a lot of time with Usopp, so it's, you know, logical to say that he did pick up on a lot of Usopp's characteristics, including like his cowardice, and then the way that he confronts that cowardice, the way that he stands up to it is brave. Because like they say, you know, being brave isn't, you know, a lack of fear, it's what you do in the face of that fear. You know, which, I mean, let's just build on that for a second, is also why I think Usopp is the bravest of the crew. Because when you get like Luffy or Zoro or Sanjay, and they're like, you know, they'll fight a big duck or something, right? They'll fight some big monster, and in the face of this big monster, they're just like, yeah, whatever, Zoro's got his sword, and he's just like, onigiri, slice him up, and Luffy's like, gum gum rocket, and Sanjay starts calling out pork chops and stuff and starts kicking people. You know, it's not considered bravery because they have no fear. They have no, like, this opponent that they're facing is nothing to them. Whereas if Usopp was to face them, he would be terrified, but he would fight, and that's what would make him brave. Also, just going back to the comments, I've been getting this same comment for like the last 10 videos. And so I say Sanji, but apparently it's Sanjay. Sanjay? Apparently it's Sanjay. So I'm going to try and say Sanjay from now on. Or do I say Sanjay and it's actually Sanji? No, I'm going to say it's Sanjay. I wouldn't say Sanjay. My accent wouldn't allow me to say that properly. Yeah, okay, so from now on it's going to be Sanjay. Now, there are a few more of the bigger themes that I do want to talk about before I, you know, try and end this video as fast as I can, because this is hella creepy where I am. I want to talk about, okay, firstly, let's talk about the, like, battle map, or the battle planning map that we keep seeing. And I think the first time we saw it was in the Alabasta Arc, although I could very well be wrong with that. And, you know, like the Alabasta Arc where you see like the two land masses, the river and like the other river. And, you know, it was really necessary to be like, here's the capital, here's where Crocodile is, here's where the rebels are, you know, this is where they're going, this is where they're going, this is where like the Straw Hats are going. And it was really necessary to track the movements of all the different moving parts. And since that Alabasta Arc, we have been getting a lot more of this like battle management, battle planning map. And I just wanted to come out and say that I really appreciate that. I think that it looks great. I love every time I see it, even when they're like explaining like really basic, just like stuff you would have no problems tracking. I really just enjoy seeing that like battle map planning, the like little island. You know, there's the one where in this arc specifically, they have the Sky Island and, you know, the boat's here and they're trying to get to here and they're just like, yep, we're just going to go like this around the thing. And it's just like the simplest thing, but it just feels nice to see that like planning map happen. Next, let's talk about all of the different factions that we're fighting together in this, or fighting against each other in this arc. I really enjoyed that each of these factions had their own like goals and their own reasons for doing the things that they were doing. Actually, you know what? I will get back on that later. Let's instead talk about God Enel. Because God Enel was like a really just like, he was all over the place in terms of his characterization. Like, in terms of his mindset of being a god and being like entitled to the things that he's entitled, and like, you know, I am a man of thunder, I am a god, I belong in the sky, and everyone else, it is an affront to me that human beings are living in the sky, because, you know, the sky is just for the gods. And so like his entire plan revolving around, you know, wiping out the Sky Islands, because he considered himself a god and considered, you know, them an affront to him for having to share his like heaven space with them. That whole plan was like crazy. It was really good. It was really out of the box. And like the fact that you find out that he eats like the, I think it was called the Goro Goro fruit or something. The fact that you find out that he was created into this lightning ability, it wasn't something, you know, like a mantra or something that he trained up or was born with. It was something that he ate and became this. He ate it and like in his own mind was elevated to a god status. And that's why he destroyed his own hometown before coming to Sky Island. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that it was really interesting to dive into his mind and like just kind of see how that sudden development of power could just change his mindset so much. But more than that, more than just like clearing the sky of the Sky Islands and the people so he would have the heavens to himself, he wanted to travel to the endless earth, or he wanted to travel to, or control, or own, or whatever it was. He kept saying the words, the endless earth. And I wasn't really 100% sure what was going on with this, because I was like, okay, you know what, he wants to destroy everything from the sky, so that way the entire earth is below him, and then he technically controls the entire earth, or the entire earth is beneath him. Or maybe he was talking about the red line because it's a circle, so it's an endless earth. But then we find out that he's actually talking about the moon. And for some reason, I have a feeling that this isn't the last we're going to see of this. I have a feeling that the moon is going to play some kind of a role. I mean, technically the moon always plays a role because it controls the tides, but I have a feeling there's more to the moon than we're being led to believe, because just something that I've noticed is the moon is always in the same phase. Whenever we are reading this story, the moon's phase has not changed. Especially since the Whiskey Peak arc. Like, I don't know if you guys have been watching me since then, but in the Whiskey Peak arc, I commented on the moon, and I commented on the fact that it looks like a demon's eye when Zoro is, you know, really unleashing his abilities and like just messing people up. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, symbolism, you know, all these people are looking for it, and the moon is shaped like this eye, and it looks like he's looking at him. But the moon is still in that same phase. And I've gone through Whiskey Peak. There's at least, I believe, Little Garden comes after Whiskey Peak, and then Alabaster, and then, you know, the one before the one I've just read, and then Skypiea. So I'm like 4 arcs away from when I first mentioned the Demon's Eye moon, and the moon is still in that same phase, and I believe it hasn't changed in the other 2 either. So I'm just like, is this like, does Oda just have a specific connection with this phase of the moon? Does he just think it looks cool? Whatever. But, you know, towards the end when we do see, you know, Enel flying off on his spaceship, he does head towards a full moon, which is just like something I was like, I get it. I get from like a visual artistic standpoint, you're really trying to highlight that moon and show that he's heading towards it, and that it is so important to him. So you do want to show that full moon. But I am just saying that the moon has not changed phases. And I do not believe for a second that it is just like a, you know, whatever, it's a throwaway thing, who cares? Because so much of the things are done intentionally in this story that I cannot believe that a man as incredibly intelligent and as fantastic of a storyteller as Oda would not change the phases of the moon, unless there was a specific reason why he was not changing the phases of the moon. Another really clever thing that happened in this story was the entire, everything revolving around Enel's electricity. Like, everything revolving around that, and like how he did like the God's Judgment. And not only that, but the mantra ability he had, but the mantra ability that was connected to his electricity, so it went out like sonar waves, instead of like people having to focus like the other priests had to do. They had to focus on their target, as was explained by Asia, I believe the girl's name was, or Isa or something. But yeah, everything revolving around Enel's electric abilities, like the mantra with the sonar thing, how we already said. But more than that, when he was talking about the airship and how they were mining all the gold from the city. And when we get that scene where Enel is inside of his airship and he's like, you know, I had these people mine and build these parts for me, and it can only be powered by my abilities. And he uses the like electricity to, you know, shard out all of the gold or whatever, you know, conduct all of the gold and like start up the engines. I thought that that was really clever. I thought that that was really well done. I thought that it was just really smart, because in the real world, gold is one of the best conductors of electricity. And it was just such a really interesting way to tie in, you know, this guy's plans, this guy's abilities, and this guy's like mental state and his like thinking that he is a god above everyone else, that he would have this machine built only powered by his abilities. But more than that, we also get when Luffy is fighting him, and Luffy is like a rubber man, so he is immune to the gold guy's or to the lightning guy's abilities, which again is like really clever. It's just a really, smart use of, this guy's strengths, this guy's weaknesses, Luffy's strengths, Luffy's weaknesses, and just that whole mentality. But more than that, I like the fact that Enel does not understand what Luffy is. He does not understand why Luffy is immune to magic, or immune to the lightning, sorry. And Luffy says to him, I'm a rubber man. That's why your electricity doesn't hurt me. It's because I'm made of rubber. And Enel is just like, what? And it makes so much sense because Enel was born on another Sky Island, and Sky Islands do not have land, so they do not have trees, and rubber comes from a tree, so it makes sense that Enel has never heard of rubber because there's no way that rubber trees could grow where he's from, right? And it's just such layered, complex storytelling that just makes so much sense, but when you're just reading it, you're like, it's just so clever, it's just so well done that they can just take all these like little things that in the moment really don't mean anything, but then you get to the end and all of those like little moments that just didn't mean anything suddenly mean everything. This guy really just is a master at his craft. He is so fantastic at the stories that he tells. Alright, back to my other point that I was trying to make. I really enjoyed that each of these factions was given their own, backstory, their own interesting history, their own like stories passed down through the generations, their old like wars that they've passed down through the generations. And they all had very like believable motivations to do the things that they were doing. They had believable reasons to fight. And it was one of those classic stories where like everybody thinks that they're the good guy. And it was something that I talked about in the Alabasta arc, where I said that one of the really impressive things about that story was the justification of war, because obviously war is such an incredibly difficult thing to justify that a lot of storytellers don't even bother justifying a war. They will just have the war already in process, and then obviously, fighting for your country or fighting for your friends is the justification for the war. Whereas like you saw in the Alabasta arc, there was just really great reasons. Like there was just like really great psychological like manipulation to convince people that their war was justified, and it was just really well done. And it was the same thing here, to a lesser degree. It was like everybody believed that they were the hero in this story, which really does lend a lot of like credence to their cause, and it lends a lot of like support from the reader. It's really easy for a reader to support these causes because everybody thinks that they're the hero. I will say one of the weird things that I did not expect, or I won't even say it's weird, one of the things that I really did predict was I predicted that Nami would beat the Enel guy. Like I understand that, okay, it's Luffy's the big bad guy. Luffy is the one that like takes care of the big bad bosses or whatever. But I really honestly predicted that Nami would like mess this guy up because he is like lightning. He's made of lightning. He's like electricity, blah, blah, blah. I thought that Nami would have used her like elemental sticks, and because she does show that greater understanding of elements when she is fighting some guy earlier and he uses fire. So she uses like cold and water or something. And then when the guy uses fire, it just creates this big, massive blanket of fog, which allows her to get in there and use the like blast dial and blast him away. So I did think that that was a little odd that, we didn't see anything at all. Like Nami didn't use her bubble sticks or whatever to like fight him at all in any way, shape or form. And I was really looking forward to whatever like science she was going to come up with to be like, oh, he uses electricity, I'm going to do blah, blah, and I'm going to use cold and wind, and it's going to blow him away. He's going to turn into a cloud and blow away. And I thought that that was just like a wasted opportunity. Like I said, obviously I know that Luffy was going to be the one to beat him, but I thought Nami would at least like do something with that science knowledge that she has. Alright, I'm going to say one more thing before I go, because there are a lot of really creepy noises going on right now and I'm starting to lose my nerve. I really enjoyed, like I said in the earlier arcs, I really enjoyed the like One Piece exposition. I really enjoyed like earlier, there was the pirate hunters and they needed information, so the pirate hunter just gets like spat up on the deck by a shark, and he's like, oh, you're looking for Nami? Yeah, she just went that way. Or when we're in the middle of the Arlong Park arc and like everyone needed to be together, and so like Luffy attaches a rope to Momu or something, and then they just like zoom through the ocean. Momu dives underneath the island, and then the boat hits the shore and just like flies through the air, smashes down into the ground, into like Zoro and whoever else, and then they're just like, all right, whose ass we gotta kick? And then they go and like mess up Arlong Park. And I've always loved One Piece exposition. I've loved exposition, and I've loved the like bringing everyone together. This was no exception. We get Zoro picked up by the bird, and he's like, they're flying off into the air, and the big giant snake, who we find out was once the descendant of their god, or is the descendant of their once god, chases the bird through the air, and the bird, you see it like do the math, and it's like, together we are being chased by the snake, but if I drop this guy that I'm carrying, then the snake will just eat him and I'll get away. So Zoro gets dropped where Chopper is, and Luffy is already inside the snake's stomach. Nami rocks up on the waiver, and it's just like, I just loved how ridiculous that whole like, all right, everyone is like over here, let's get Luffy eaten by a snake. And let's just talk about Luffy being eaten by a snake for a second. I thought that was great. When Luffy was like knocked away or whatever when he was fighting that guy, it seemed like he fell through the ground or something and found himself in ruins. I loved that entire like sequence. I wish I went back and like looked. I wish I went back and looked and saw if there was anything to show that Luffy was eaten by a snake. Like, I'm sure there would be like some kind of little like hint that like this is not a cave. All right, I know I said that was the last thing I was going to say, but I just have a couple more things. Okay, so I flashed up this panel a little bit earlier. Click on it, pause it, whatever. I just wanted to point out that, very clever, very well done Oda. I pointed out earlier in the, I believe it was the Little Garden arc, when that guy was there and he like made 100 copies of himself, but only one was wearing the log pose, and that's how Luffy found him. In this one, Chopper is just about to take this guy's shoes off so he can like beat him. Now, if you look at it, you can see, Chopper has his hand on the guy's foot. And you don't really think anything of it. You know that Chopper was going for his shoe. But if you look at the middle panel, you can see when like Chopper gets kicked that his other foot is missing its shoe. And it's just the smallest little detail, but it's so great. It's just that nice little bit of foreshadowing that they've put in to be like, Chopper did get his shoe, and it is shown here. But like on your first read through, you wouldn't pick up on it. But they made sure to take the effort to put that foreshadowing in. All right, and now this is literally the last thing I'm going to talk about. This time I promise. So I'm going to flash this panel up here, pause it, whatever. Okay, so in this panel, God says, Monkey D, Luffy, and he like freaks out that Luffy has the middle initial D. We've already talked about that, how like, apparently that's not part of the Japanese naming convention, which is what you guys have told me because I don't know anything about Japanese naming convention, but apparently it doesn't stand for someone's name. It's like some kind of special symbolism. But he says something along the lines of like, they look a lot alike. Are they related? And this goes back to an earlier prediction that I had that one, Luffy was the reincarnation of Gold Roger because like, Gold Roger was killed 20 years ago and Luffy is about 20. So like that kind of lines up. But apparently reincarnation isn't really a thing in One Piece, so I had the other assumption that Luffy was Gold Roger's son. And I feel as if this lends more credence to it. Like this guy is like, wow, he really looks like Gold Roger. Is Luffy Gold Roger's son? Is there time travel in One Piece? Is Gold Roger Luffy? Did I just solve this entire thing? Gold Roger is actually Luffy from the future/past? No. Surely not. I'm not going to put that as an official prediction, but like, if it turns out that's the case, remember this video. I called it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this much. Thanks for like just supporting me every step of the way of my One Piece journey. I appreciate all of your comments. I appreciate all of the love and support that you've been giving me. One Piece fans are fantastic. It's just the best fandom that I've come across. And that's why I try to be as consistent as I can with making these videos, even if I have to come to a haunted, random fucking shed thing that I shouldn't be in. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. So next week's video will probably be that filler arc that you guys have told me to watch. Please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you very much.